Story 1 original post. We, 26 female and 29 male, are visiting his mother for Christmas. Last time we saw her, there was a massive argument. At 26. Female have been dating Danny, 29 male, for almost a year. We moved to another city together a month ago so Danny could pursue an education to advance further in his career field. I grew up in a big family. 5 siblings, 13 nieces and nephews, lots and lots of cousins. There's bickering, lots of poking fun at each other, shouting over screaming babies to be heard. Sometimes a totally normal conversation between a sibling and I comes off as fighting words to people who have not been around my family. My boyfriend has remarked that a regular conversation between my mother and I was coming off as aggressive. It cannot be a coincidence that multiple people have said so. So I realize that we must be reasonably perceived as aggressive in tone. He is an only child to a single mother, 50 female, twice divorced. His mother helped us move. It was a stressful move and we were running very behind. We moved at the beginning of December in an extremely cold climate. I really love plants and always have. I spend a lot of time taking care of my plant collection. I kept a garden for many years and it was my pride and joy. My prized possession is a giant monstera that I brought back to life after finding it wilting and pest-infested some years ago. His mom picked up my monstera and was stepping out the door with it into sub-freezing temperatures. I shouted, "No, no, no!" and quickly ran to find some sort of plastic covering for it so it wouldn't immediately die from the cold shock. I covered the plants and explained that they'll die from the cold. We continued packing. On the drive up there, I was reflecting back on that interaction and realized it probably came off like I was angry and I snapped at her. I wasn't angry at all. I just really did not want my plant to die, and my voice was louder than I had intended it to be. My voice was also deeper than it normally is because I was on the first day of being sick. Yay, sick while moving. I mentioned this to my partner and made a mental note to apologize to his mother later after things had gotten settled. We drove for 12 hours. We got to our new apartment late at night and spent a lot of time hauling boxes up the stairs. I felt like crap, but I was trying hard to keep a good attitude despite being sick. After the last of the boxes was brought in, I started putting some things away and making the beds. That's when his mother confronted me. She was really angry with me. She said I totally overreacted and it was just a goddamn plant, and she thought it was something important. She thought I wanted to fight her? I immediately apologized, explained that I was not angry with her at all, and I was unhappy to hear that she stewed on this for 12 hours. I hadn't realized it was that big of a reaction, and that wasn't my intention. She demanded to know if I would ever throw such a tantrum to my own mother. I was sort of surprised by this question because, well, I interact with my mother like that all the time. I gave an honest reply that yes, I do speak to my mother that way, but that's normal for my family. While I realize that's normal for my family, I also realize it comes off as aggressive to other people, and I never want to make other people uncomfortable. I apologized again. She was not having it. She kept repeating how it's just a plant and thought it was something actually important, and she likes my relationship with Danny, and it sure would be a shame if that changed. It honestly felt like she was berating me and low-key threatening me. I kept apologizing and it felt like it wasn't good enough for her. I eventually asked if she forgave me, and she said she did. That was the end of the conversation. That night it kept bothering me. A lot. It felt like she was not interested in my apology. It felt like she wanted a pound of flesh with it. My partner asked if I was okay and I answered honestly. No, I felt disrespected and humiliated. I tried to get some sleep but couldn't. My cat was very vocal about how upset she was over the move, and I finally just locked myself in the bathroom with my cat and slept on the floor with her. She stopped meowing around 4 a.m. I came to the decision that I did not want to address the conversation with his mother. I just wanted to leave it alone and I can deal with my own feelings privately. There's no need to have my own say, no matter how much I disliked the way she handled it. I woke up the next morning feeling sore, sick, and extremely tired. I went out into the kitchen to start unpacking boxes. His mother was in the kitchen. I said good morning. She said, "Danny says you aren't over last night?" Great. I carefully said that I don't think we should talk about it right now, that I'm very tired and feeling unwell, and I didn't want to say something I don't mean. She asked what that's supposed to mean. I reiterated that I was feeling unwell and didn't want to talk about it. She almost let it go. "Well, Danny is really upset, so I think we should talk about it." My first mistake was letting that slide. My second mistake was relenting to it. Danny then walks in. I start by saying that it wasn't just a plant. It was very important to me, and I felt like she wasn't respecting my belongings. She blew the F up. She starts berating me again, caricaturing my reaction to the plant and repeating herself over and over and over again. I start crying. She keeps talking over me. Danny says absolutely nothing, won't look at me, and keeps staring at the floor. Important note: I do not cry in front of other people. I have cried in front of Danny only one other time when my brand new car broke down and I didn't have the money to fix it. He knows I don't cry in front of other people. I excuse myself and say I need a break. She scoffs and looks at Danny like I'm being ridiculous. I leave the apartment and spend some time sobbing on the sidewalk. I call my mom and she calms me down. My mom tells me that I should not talk to Danny's mother again. There's nothing I can say that would make the situation better, and I should probably get some sleep to ward off the sickness and exhaustion. I find Danny and let him know I'm going to get some rest. I slept round the clock, waking up crying intermittently and taking more cold medicine. I don't hear a word from Danny. His mother leaves the next day. We spend the entire next week in a deep depression and a state of high anxiety. The apartment feels not good. I feel like I can no longer trust Danny to protect me or have my back. This is the first time I've moved away from home. I don't have a car. I don't have a job. My support system is 12 hours away. I'm extremely vulnerable and effing terrified. Things have gotten a little better since then between Danny and I. I am trying very hard to let my guard down and let Danny in emotionally. I stay at home every day and unpack, clean the apartment, apply for jobs, visit the gym, and make all of Danny's meals. I don't know what else I would do anyways. We live several miles away from town. I'm trying to not let the depression take over. We are going back home to visit my parents and his mother for Christmas. I am extremely nervous as to how this will go. If his mother berates me again and he says nothing, I don't think I can continue being in this relationship. What if I have to break the year-long lease I just signed? How would I even get back home? Do I just pack up a few boxes and my cat, leaving everything else I own behind? Do I move back in with my parents? Do I just let her chew me out again and take it? F. Am I totally out of line here? I want nothing to do with her. I have this horrible sinking feeling that spending 3 days with her is going to be the end of our relationship, and I will have nowhere to go. We leave tomorrow morning, and I feel sick just thinking about it. How should I handle this? TLDR. I moved to another city with my partner and had a huge fight with his mother over a plant. We are visiting her again tomorrow. I'm deeply afraid this will be the end of our relationship. What's the best way to handle it? Now for the comments. I think you should not go visit his mother. Let him go see her on his own. I don't know if your relationship is salvageable or not, but you have to take care of yourself right now because you can't trust Danny to do it. It might be easier to figure out the logistics of what happens next once the pressure of the holiday season is past. I think some time with your family without Danny around would be helpful for you too. If I'm understanding correctly, Danny told his mom you were still upset, but he didn't tell her what disrespectful jerk she was being by diminish your feelings about the plant and berating you about something you had already apologized for. And then he stood there quietly while she continued to mock you for caring about something until you cried. And you did everything you could to make him comfortable while he still did nothing to make you feel validated, secure, part of a partnership. One of the biggest reasons why moving in with someone quickly is a bad idea is that so many relationships are perfectly magical when you haven't run into any real conflict yet. The stress of moving, the way his mother treated you, those difficult situations are where you see who your boyfriend really is. Anyone can be caring and supportive when it's only words and gestures that don't require sacrifice. When people have to make choices, like whether to stand up to mommy or let her emotionally punch you, those choices reveal their real priorities and ideals. Your mom is right. You should not put yourself in a position where you're going to be talked down to and insulted because you misspoke and raised your voice in a moment of crisis, especially when you already recognized your mistake and apologized. I'd honestly just not go back and stay with your mom. She sounds great. I think I just made my mind up on the matter. I'm not going. I'm way too vulnerable for that right now. I wouldn't even have a way out if things went sour. My parents and his mom don't live in the same town. They live in the same U.S. state, and it is not one of the small ones. Take the time to deeply consider leaving him. He isn't going to get better about standing up for you in the future. You're not out of line. It sounds like she's taking what you said in bad faith. You tried to help her understand where you were coming from and apologized for your tone. Something I struggle with, I feel you, dude. You did the adult, mature things you needed to do in light of the misunderstanding, and she chose to remain mad about it. All of this said, I think you should sit with your feelings regarding your partner's lacking defense of you. Is this the first time he's been caught between you and his mom? In my experience, the first incident like this doesn't always get handled perfectly, but the subsequent ones will sort of show you what you can expect in the future. Not to cut him slack, but this may be a situation where you have to sit him down and explain to him exactly what you're feeling, what his mom said to you when he wasn't around, and how his actions impacted you here. The way he receives that info and puts it into action will tell you everything you need to know. I know confrontation is scary, especially with someone you love, but don't stew in this alone. Doing that will almost certainly cause a repeat of this messy situation. As far as Christmas goes, try to play nice, but pay attention to how your boyfriend acts. Personally, though, I would skip it. I think you're better off just getting through the holidays and waiting until you're back home to figure out what happens next. I'm sorry you have to spend your holiday with her, though. She sounds awful. This is the first time something like this has happened between his mother and I. Frankly, this is the first time something like this has ever happened to me. Danny and I did talk about it. I talked about how vulnerable, afraid, and abandoned I felt, and why I felt those things. I talked about what his mother said when he wasn't around. I talked about how his inaction made me feel. He apologized for mentioning that I wasn't over it, and he apologized for not checking up on me. It's really nice to know that I'm not crazy, though. I've been slowly going insane over it during the long hours I spend alone at the apartment. I think I have to tell him that it would be a horrible idea for me to go. We're supposed to leave in the morning, and I have a feeling this isn't going to go over well. Why would you move to a place out of town with no car, no job, no friends or family, and with a man you are not married to or engaged and dating for less than a year? I ask this because when you are completely stuck with no money or protection, you are vulnerable to people treating you poorly. Plus, they realize there is nothing you can do about it. Highly suggest that you get one of your many relatives to get out there with a moving truck and help you move back home. You need to concentrate on your career. He can go to school on his own. Let his mother take care of him. And please don't tell me you co-signed a lease with a man and no job. If so, beg the landlord to let you get out of it. If you stay, you will just be the doormat, abused bangmaid. Good luck to you. I moved out of town with no car, job, or support system, with a man I've been dating for less than a year, because everyone, my support system, said I'd be crazy not to. I guess I thought you're supposed to be vulnerable with your intimate partner. He's never given me any reason not to be vulnerable. He's done construction work for my parents free of charge, $30K worth of work, all summer. He handed me the keys to his vehicle with no hesitation when my vehicle went toes up. He almost refused to let me pay rent when I first moved in with him in September. He'll surprise me with arranged visits with my closest friends. He suggests we see my little brother's band performances. He's never pushed or prodded me to do something I'm uncomfortable with. He's been quick to apologize. He's been quick to say thank you. He is many things, and he is now arguably without a spine when it comes to his mother. He is absolutely not abusive. I have been with abusive men, and Danny is not cut from that cloth. Was it stupid to move out here with no job, vehicle, support? Oh yeah, big time, I'll cop to that. I'm not a bang maid, and despite this huge issue with his mother, no part of me believes he would treat me as such. Update. Let's call the place Danny's mother lives Ennsville. My parents live in Snakewater. The skinny of things. After initially holding firm to his decision that we'll be going to visit his mother in Ennsville, Danny reconsidered his decision. I got the sense that Danny was inspecting the state of our relationship the same way a man would inspect a table loaded with heavy, fragile material. At some point during this inspection, Danny decided to look underneath the thing and discovered the table was bowing, worse, cracking, underneath the weight he had seriously underestimated. Danny told me he wanted to take me to Snakewater. He hadn't realized just how uncomfortable I was with going to Ennsville, and hadn't realized that breaking up was a very real possibility. Danny took me to Snakewater, and I spent some time with my family and my best friends, which was wonderful and healing. Danny went to Ennsville by himself with plans to join me and my family for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. He swore he wouldn't resent me for it, and I believe him, for the most part. Now for the other fun things. My father is very unhappy with Danny. My father is a hardened Vietnam veteran who has committed outrageous acts of violence in his years, but he was tearing up when he asked Danny to take care of me after we move. He was very upset to receive a phone call from me, terrified and in tears, the second day of being gone. My dad wanted to have a talk with Danny. I asked him not to stay quiet for now. He gave me his word that he would not say anything. I wanted to give Danny the courtesy he did not give me. I don't believe in scorekeeping or tit-for-tat dynamics in a relationship. I talked to Danny privately about my father's unhappiness and allowed Danny the opportunity to initiate the conversation himself, should he choose to do so. Danny talked to my father eventually. I do not know what was said between the two of them, and I won't ask. More fun things. Danny's mother sent him a text message toward the end of Christmas dinner, informing Danny that his stepfather of 10 years is dying of cancer and has days to live. This news was devastating. I quickly excused us from the table and found a room for Danny to grieve in privately. He called his mother and I could hear her sobbing over the phone. I held him while he grieved with her. Wow, there's a lot of moving parts to this situation now. We finish up Christmas and drive the 12 hours back to our new home. Danny is acting, well, strange. I'm not surprised by any of his behavior. People do odd things when they are grieving, but some of it is a little unsettling. I feel like I am constantly getting on his nerves, or if I'm not getting on his nerves, I'm being used as a quick dopamine fix. He has 3 moods lately: angry, sad, and aroused. He hasn't disregarded my consent or hurt me or anything like that. I'm just not sure any of this is healthy. He cries in the night and disassociates during the day. His stepfather passed away earlier this week. We decided to get him a plane ticket back to Ennsville so he can assist his mother with the final affairs. The plane ticket wasn't cheap, and we couldn't really afford it, but it felt like the right thing to do. He's still in Ennsville right now and will be flying back tomorrow. Danny acknowledges that me skipping the Christmas trip to Ennsville was the right decision. He still does not recognize how bad it was to let his mother mistreat me. It feels like he's doing mental gymnastics to not face the fact that his mother was in the wrong. I asked Danny how we will be handling parent conflict moving forward, and he could not give me an answer. Until he can give me an answer, I won't entertain the idea of coming within a country mile of his mother. I didn't want to admit it to myself, but I'm going to. His mother is an awful woman, and this is a Freudian circus I want no part of. I don't understand how Danny turned out to be such a social, outgoing, and ambitious young man being raised by a woman like that. I'm not even sure where to start untangling this mess. I had friends and family take me aside during Christmas and quietly tell me that they will come and get me if I need an out. My father was initially outraged by Danny's lack of action and wanted to move me back home immediately. My mother and brothers think I should give it more time, that Danny is worth the time and effort it will take to sort this out. I feel guilty for allowing my family to criticize Danny when Danny is vulnerable and grieving. I feel guilty for feeling unsettled by the constant nitpicking, zoning out, and being pawed at. I picked Danny up from the airport in the morning, and will be immediately taking him to his college campus to begin orientation. There's way too much happening all at once. TLDR. I did not see Danny's mother for Christmas. Danny's stepfather passed away. My family is quietly divided over how I should be handling this. I feel like both a whipping post and a dopamine button. Now for the comments. How do you feel about Danny and your life together? Are you happy? It seems a lot of what is going on is external to you. Your father's feelings on Danny, Danny's convo with your father, Danny's stepfather dying, etc., but directly affects you and leaves you feeling like a whipping post and a dopamine button. If you put aside all of the external happenings, do you feel generally satisfied in your relationship? Do you feel heard, loved, and excited for the future? In many ways, your writing seems as if you're resolved to be on the periphery of the dysfunction, even if it's really unhealthy for you. There's no shame in recognizing that this might not be the life you want. I think I maybe am resolved to existing on the periphery of the dysfunction, at least for a little while. The other option is breaking up, and I don't want to break up with Danny. This life, the one where I'm a whipping post and a dopamine button, is not the life I want. I'm sure having an anxious, unemployed girlfriend that can't stand his mother isn't the life Danny wants. It sort of feels like this is the life I must endure for a month or two before we can start carving the life we really want, if that makes any sense. Maybe I'm just doing mental gymnastics to cope. I think the fact that he can't give you an answer about how to handle his mother makes sense in light of the current grief sphere the family is existing in. But if he can't have that conversation with you in a few months about how things will be handled moving forward, you'll have to have a conversation with yourself about whether or not you can find a way to be comfortable in this status quo. If he refuses to acknowledge that his mother was wrong and that you are deserving of respect as a person and as his partner, you might need to consider that this is not something he views as being an issue worthy of addressing, and you will need to ask yourself if you can live with that. Personally, I see a lot of red flags, and the fact that your family and friends are seeing them too, to the point they are offering you an out, indicates to me that you might be a little bit blind to what's right in front of your face. Love blinders are real and can be a challenge. I hope you can find some peace and stability, however you decide to proceed. Thank you for reading and for being gentle with your responses. Your comments remind me of things my mother would say, and I mean that in a good way. Comforting. There is indeed way too much happening right now for both you and Danny to be thinking clearly. However, no matter what happens, no matter how difficult the next months may be, no matter how long it takes for you two to get to a normal again, the matter remains that there was damage done in the past. Think of a relationship like a vase. When someone knocks the vase over, it cracks. Maybe a piece breaks off. Danny not defending you knocked the vase over. Some people are willing to glue the vase back together. They are able to rebuild trust and can then look at their fixed vase and be proud that it's still standing and what they accomplished to keep it around. The important part here is that repairing the vase is a two-person job and not something one can do alone. But to other people, the cracks are a painful reminder. Fixing the vase doesn't make the cracks invisible after all. Those people, those unable to rebuild trust in a sufficient way, are now unable to trust the vase, cracks and all, to hold water permanently, and the cracks also remind them every time of what happened before and what caused the damage. To these people, starting over with a new vase is the correct decision. Right now, it's like strong winds are about to topple the vase over, not one of you two, and you are trying to shield it. That's the correct thing to do. Sometimes, life just sucks and you have to get through the sucky part. But none of this will make the crack that was already there better or worse. The crack is there, and Danny has not done anything to help you repair it. By deciding to not drag you to his mother for Christmas, he prevented new cracks. He prevented knocking the vase over again. But he has not done anything to try to repair the damage already done. Right now, the situation doesn't allow for any repairs at all, but the repairs should have happened long before. You will have to reevaluate, whenever you feel the time is right, how the vase is looking and how you feel when looking at it. If Danny makes no efforts to fix the crack, by standing up to his mother, or at the very least giving a believable apology for not helping you, and detailing how he will prevent this from happening again, then there are no repairs being done. Can you live with the crack, as it is, unrepaired? And it sounds like you are also suffering now, from Danny pawing at you. Does this damage the vase further to you? No one can make the decision for you, and right now, things are too tumultuous for you to take stock. But if your family and friends are offering to get you out, then I feel like so many people can't be wrong. I lost my mother 3 years ago. I am still grieving, and I learned that people grieve differently. No one chooses to lose a loved one, and grief can make people do weird things. However, in no world do you or should you stomach things like letting Danny use you for sex when you don't feel like having any. This is not helping anyone. He is using it as a way to drown out the pain. You are going to feel worse and worse, and so it will just damage your relationship further. This is not getting through a tough time and maybe coming out stronger, but the opposite. This is allowing a situation that's harmful to you to continue uninterrupted and dealing emotional damage. Reading this was like a cool hand on a fevered brow. Very orderly and well thought out, which I need. Thank you. When did Danny's mother know about her husband's cancer? Your move was at the end of November. Could it be that his mother displaced her worry and anger about her husband's health, her future, onto you? With you being tired and sick, and her in a headspace like that, on top of a stressful 12-hour drive and move, I can at least understand why a blow-up might happen. If she did know about her husband's illness at the end of November, why did she not tell Danny then? Or when he was at her home during Christmas? Why would she wait until he was at your family's home unless she only found out that day? Something's not adding up for me. His stepfather's health had been declining for several months. He had some health scares prior to Danny and I moving that was very stressful. I have considered the possibility of her stress over her husband being misplaced on me. I would be shocked if it wasn't a factor. Danny's time in Ennsville was mostly spending time with his stepfather. There had been long-standing suspicion that cancer was at the bottom of all these other health issues, but no tests had been taken to confirm it. I'll give his mother the benefit of the doubt that she didn't know for sure it was cancer until Christmas Day. Maybe I'm being naive, but I can't picture her being so dreadful that she uses effing cancer to emotionally manipulate her son. I truly believe this was all poorly timed and an unfortunate example of Murphy's Law.
Thank you for listening. If you like the video, consider like and subscribe. If you want more stories like these, turn on your notification to receive the latest stories.